Welcome back to another exciting trip around the crypto canaverse. In today's episode, we'll be exploring startups, NFTs, DeFi, and tax planning software. Alan is the co-founder of the Crypto Canaverse Show and a very God-fearing man with the superpower of connecting people. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you, Crystal. Welcome everybody to Crypto Canaverse Show. Really appreciate you guys all joining today. Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Alan, what is our Bible verse for today?
Yeah, today's Bible verse, it's very meaningful, has purpose. It comes from 1 Corinthians 10:31, and it says, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do in life, do it all for the glory of God." It's a reminder to live each moment with a sense of purpose and mindfulness towards honoring God in our actions. The verse emphasizes like the importance of living a life that reflects our faith, reflects things that we do, that we have value into our actions. By doing everything for the glory of God, it encourages believers to align their action, thoughts, and behaviors with the teaching of faith. This can lead to more meaningful and purposeful life rooted in a sense of spiritual connection and fulfillment. So when I was meditating on this verse this morning, it spoke to me because of a few things. Because oftentimes our actions, or maybe the words that we say, is it led by, God? Is this something that you should be saying, or is it an action that you should do? So I think taking a step back and look at, hey, what we're doing right now, does it glorify God? Does it have a purpose? Is it meaningful? Is it doing good for others? So if we have a mindset that we always have, God in the center, and knowing that He's leading the way, you just have to follow, and you just have to follow through on what the path He has already set for you. You will see, a greater purpose, and having a purpose as well as a fulfillment of your spirit. I think it's important for me, is because that's what gets your mind straight and gets you into walking in the right path. So that's what this verse means to me. Thank you, Crystal. I love the verses that you choose. It always means
Thank
a
you,
lot.
Alan. Well, I appreciate that. We specifically, align the verses with, the audience that we have coming on, and so that's something that we really pride ourselves in doing. I appreciate that. I can't take all the credit, but thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to comment on that verse or what it means to them? No? Okay. I'd like to make a quick announcement, which we have made for the last 3 weeks. We are doing an international online pitch contest for women founders within the blockchain industries. We have already had a $20,000 development grant given to the winner by BlockSafe Solutions. If you would like to be a sponsor, please reach out to Crystal or Alan on LinkedIn, on email, however you guys can reach us. We would love to have you. Now, I am excited. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am excited to welcome back our guest co-host, a CPA's secret weapon, CEO and founder of TaxPlanIQ, and host of the Concierge CPA podcast, Miss Jackie Meyer. Welcome,
Hello,
Jackie.
everybody. Thank you, Crystal. I had a lot of fun last time. Can't wait to kick off here.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
So, you closed your CPA practice after 12 years and created TaxPlanIQ, and now you travel around speaking, to 20,000 CPAs at a time. What are you teaching them and why?
Not much. No. I'm teaching courage is kind of the word that comes to mind. At the end of the day, we are all trained in some very unique and odd way of how to run a practice. And there's so many amazing things that people can do to transform their firms and be different from the norm. And there's so many problems in our industry. And so I talk about value pricing. I talk about best practices, boundaries. basic stuff that people just don't really think about on their day-to-day that are really hurting them mentally and physically with their health. So that's what I like to focus on.
That is wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about TaxPlanIQ and what it does, how it works?
Sure. So TaxPlanIQ is a tax advisory software. It helps the accountant or tax advisor sell a tax plan using what I've patented as the ROI method of value pricing. It makes it like no brainer. Oh, wow, you can save me this much money. Here's your cost. Here's the intangible benefits you bring to the table. Let's do it. Right. And then implementing the plan and supporting the client and then continuing to show that ROI year after year. So it's been a lot of fun. I've been doing that for a few years, just this last year, really full time, and we're going full force to dominate the industry.
That's awesome. I was checking out your TaxPlanIQ application I was watching some YouTube videos, and it seems very, like there's a lot of AI behind it, and it's very simple to use, and there's so many different facets to it. Can you kind of take us through, what it does and how it would help a CPA?
Okay, so I cut out for a second, but you're saying for TaxPlanIQ?
Yes.
Yeah. So it manages the entire tax advisory engagement process from the initial sell to the implementation and then follow-up tasks that are involved. It's something that most accountants are just doing off of their 20, 30 years experience out of their head. And we've consolidated all these like manual time-consuming tasks into this one product. So we see about 70% efficiencies. We've already impacted over 25,000 taxpayers through the program, and we've saved almost $300 million in tax savings. And so the financial empowerment there is just, electrifying.
That's amazing. That's part of, one of the CPA, well, all of us is time management and efficiency. And if you can make that process, cut the time down, that's amazing. I love it. On your website, I noticed that you mentioned blockchain technology. How are you using blockchain technology?
I did. Oh my. I don't know. I don't know how we're using blockchain technology. I'm gonna have to check that out with my CTO. But we do have a lot of great tax strategies around crypto and blockchain and things like that. So there's all kinds of fun stuff that you can do around tax planning when it comes to specific industries and that kind of thing. So I can talk a lot more about that than using blockchain, but I'm huge into AI, natural language processing right now, and ChatGPT. We've built our own custom chatbot named Jane, Jaine, and she's like my little doppelganger, and she's the smartest tax manager ever. And we're piloting a program right now to actually bring tax plans directly to taxpayers, the 170 million US taxpayers that are out there that are on average missing about $1,000 in tax savings every year. And so our AI is going to be able to produce, what's been in my head for years and years in about 5 minutes for the taxpayers. So I'm really excited to get that program out there, see if people are as jazzed about it as I am.
That is really cool. So is Jane kind of like your Siri, but for tax planning?
Yeah, exactly.
That is super cool. So when you're doing a strategy or you're putting in something or a client's information, will it be able to tell you this strategy won't work because of this?
Yeah, exactly. So you upload the 1040, it analyzes it, pulls what strategies, suggestions that you can do to maximize your situation. There's going to be kind of different levels. I've only done two returns so far. Like this is brand new in the last week. I just released the waiting list today. People can go to taxplans.co to join us. But yeah, so it's going to be pretty revolutionary.
That is really cool. I love it. So you mentioned that you do tax planning or you have done some strategies for the cryptocurrency blockchain industries. Can you mention maybe one strategy that you've seen the most?
Well, I think it's just about appropriate proactive planning. I don't know. It depends if you can qualify someone as a day trader, which is a great tax strategy. There's all kinds of retirement or other deferred or permanent deductions that you can do to eliminate tax liabilities, depending on how well someone is doing as a day trader. But yeah, it's more just understanding the rules and making sure you're maximizing them. That's really what tax planning is at the end of the day with any strategy. It doesn't necessarily mean that there has to be some huge loophole in the tax code. Crypto is doesn't necessarily have a lot of tax loopholes, but if you know how to treat it right, then, you're going to take good care of your clients.
Very interesting. Do you have crypto or crypto tax planning CPAs in your group?
I do. I don't have that many. It's definitely, I see a lot of people really honing in on the cannabis industry right now. I think crypto is going to be kind of the thing that happens over the next 5 to 10 years, people really niching down in that area.
That's wonderful. Well, I hope that we can actually change that for you. And, we have Cameron on the line. We'll be introducing him soon. But, maybe there's a partnership in the future creating tax planning software for cryptocurrency and blockchain and NFTs, whatnot, blah, blah, blah.
Not a bad idea.
That would be
I like
fantastic.
it.
I did have a question real quick, just because I know we don't want to take up too much time. For this software, is it something that you guys created, or are you going through like a third-party software? Because we use such sensitive information. Like I know I would be, and probably others would be hesitant to use something like this. So how safe is it? Is it your guys's? Where does this?
Yeah,
where's the
it's
data
my
backed up
software that
to?
we created. TaxPlanIQ is all behind a secure firewall and whatnot. It has all the appropriate encryptions, but the taxplans.co, we're embedding a redaction that occurs before we even receive the file. And so we won't get their social security numbers. I have no interest in receiving anyone's social security numbers or private information. I just want to know their tax strategies, right? And I want to know what the numbers are on the return. And so that's where we're going to hone in on.
Great questions. Do we have any other questions for Jackie? Not at the moment. Jackie, what's next in your pipeline? Are you looking for advisors, investors, partnerships?
Yeah, I've always bootstrapped my companies. And so I am considering doing a seed round for this new concept, this new spinoff concept. And so definitely interested in talking about people that are passionate about the idea of empowering taxpayers like this for, investment opportunities. And we are revamping an entire coaching, consulting, training program that goes alongside TaxPlanIQ. And it's going to offer 3 to 4 hours of CPE every month to support people through their mindset, how to implement a tax plan, everything technical, but also, more psychological type stuff that people struggle with as well. And so I'm really excited. That's going to hit in the next month or so.
That is exciting. Where can our viewers and audience reach out to you?
So I am at Jackie Meyer CPA on most platforms, JackieMeyer CPA, or you can go to my website, jackie.cpa.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now it's time for our company highlight. Today for our company highlight, we have Russ Franklin, founder of Hubzz. Hubzz is a social entertainment platform that brings communities together in an immersive open world. Welcome, Russ.
Thank you, Crystal. Super happy to be here. I've been looking forward to this for a while. I'm glad to finally make it happen.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I'm excited. I looked at your platform and it's really coming along. It's beautifully done. What made you think to want to create this platform, and what does it do? Can you tell our audience that?
It really started back when Clubhouse was cool, if anyone remembers those days. And so you'd have these intimate sort of rooms that you could scroll through and pop in if you thought the topic was interesting. And so I would do this at the end of my day almost as a way to unwind. But in my head, I always wondered what if there was an added layer of immersion? And I think that planted sort of a seed in me. I didn't act upon it, obviously, until about 6, 8 months ago, but I've been dreaming this up for a very long time. And I just have seen these issues sort of come up, and I wouldn't say issues, more like barriers that have come up in past attempts at creating this quote unquote metaverse, which is now kind of a dirty word thanks to Mark Zuckerberg. But we are actually doing that, and we're trying to solve some problems. So I finally kind of got tired of waiting for something to be built that I would use that utilizes Web3 and the liberating nature that comes along with it. And yeah, so I don't want to get too much into my story there, but there's a why behind every what, and the reason why we're here. So I get excited easy too. So keep me keep me from rabbit trailing.
No, that's wonderful. What kind of barriers are you talking about as far as like entering into this area that you guys are trying to get past?
Well, it's people using the platform essentially. So the first thing we wanted to try and solve is accessibility. So we had to make this platform to be as lightweight as possible. Was something that was not being approached well by other platforms. And then stickiness, and you're creating an ecosystem, and so what we did was bake in a lot of incentives like revenue models for different user types. So we are built for communities, content creators, consumers, and then collectors. So create an ecosystem that makes sense to use for all of those different people groups is pretty tough. So it was never that the problem wasn't difficult. And then I feel like the trial and error had to happen, and that, luckily I got to kind of spectate and see what worked and what didn't. So one of the biggest things was accessibility, and that's kind of like at the forefront of our minds. Like we want to be an extra tab on your browser or be able to run on a really, crappy phone. I don't know of a better word than crappy, but I could try. But like a really low end phone, but having the same experience and then optional immersion thereafter. So that's sort of our angle, our first and foremost. There's other things I can get into as well.
Sure, thank you. Can you give us like a use case? Take us through how someone can use your platform.
Well, for kind of our target user group. So communities, what we offer communities or franchises or brands that are trying to get some extra exposure, we give them sort of a white glove treatment into the metaverse. So we build them a way to interface with their virtual communities, which is becoming a very prevalent thing for these large brands. They need to figure out a way to reach their audience, and there's only so many options out there. So anything like the reasons why these brands are using Discord, like they would use our platform the same way because of why they're using Discord. So there's that use case. But then going down to the consumer level thing, I'm a collector at heart, so building a platform that actually is built for collectors and NFTs, and giving you a way to interface with those NFTs, because right now they're static pictures on your screen in a marketplace, and there's nothing more that you can do with them. So baking in interactive things within those NFTs. But again, so I'm my own target market in this. So if that's probably why I get really pumped to talk about it. And then we have what we call groups, which are like entities that use our platform. You can think of like Facebook groups, but those are the ones, individuals who get to host events and utilize the platform for our revenue models that would allow them to obtain tips during events. So if you know TikTok Live and you see those gifts that they give during their presentation or whatever they're doing, we definitely piggybacked on that. And then we also have a ticketing feature. And what's really cool about the ticketing feature and the reaction tips is that the revenue can be split between the person presenting the group and then the venue owner, which would be the community. So there's, again, a lot of reasons to be there. And so we put a lot of thought into, creating that return value.
That is really interesting. I've noticed on your platform that you can actually like live present. So if you're doing a Zoom call or you're doing a concert, or maybe it's, an educational program, you can actually do this inside of your metaverse.
Yeah, exactly. So events are sort of the lifeblood and the primary entry point for our users getting onboarded. You know, it instantly loads once you follow a link and you're within the event. But yeah, so we our most immersive features are within our venues, which where the events are hosted. So you can do your webcam. So anything you can do with StreamYard, and you're probably familiar with StreamYard, or even with Zoom, you can use the API to hook it in there, but it's broadcasted on like a big screen. So it's really interesting because you do that, you can hook up your Kick, your Twitch links, and so it can be an additive to what you're already doing. But like the use cases are like it's going to be kind of like whatever you can think of. That's what we're trying to capture there. But yeah, you can do a webinar. You know, we can even hook this into there, and so you can have your little virtual character walking around. And the coolest thing about this is you have the screen. You can look and you can make a big screen, but you can also have your little breakout with like someone just chatting on the side, which is something I think is really cool that we're kind of presenting to as a use case, like the ability to find people with the common interest of whatever's going on during the event, but having the opportunity to go off to the side and have a one-on-one conversation with them, which would never happen when you got a live stream with you're just a username in a flood of messages and they reference you as the chat. Like, where's the opportunity for two people within that chat to actually bond over a common interest? It's not there. And so we definitely capitalize on that gap there, because ultimately we're a community for communities, but we give you a way to discover other things you'd be interested in. There's more there too, so I'll leave it there for now.
That's fantastic. I appreciate you sharing that. I see that you have some of your the people that you work with on here. Can you please introduce them?
Yeah, I cherry picked your fiance, Clayton, who is a genius, helping us navigate the financial realm, business development, and all the tax stuff that I just can't focus long enough to figure out. So I learn a lot by being here. It's great that I'm getting that sort of education. So thank you again for that. You guys are all tremendously educated. But then we have Bruno, who's helping on the marketing side, operations, is the type of person who can wear many hats. As with any startup, you have to have people who can pivot at any time, fill roles. And so we all say that we're doing this, but we do a little bit of everything. We're all filling gaps. So super happy to have such a incredible core team. Then we have some other people as well, but yeah, super happy to have them. Did I say it was
Thank
Bruno?
you.
Bruno is I don't even know if I mentioned his
Yes,
name.
you did. You
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Bruno, how are you doing today? Welcome.
Doing great, thanks.
Where are you calling from?
Currently in South America, but I'm from London.
Nice. Tell us a little bit, what are your thoughts about Hubzz? How are you going to market it?
It's exciting. There's definitely a gap in the market, and like Russ very well described, we're tapping into this niche and having a community for communities, right? So we are looking into a place where people can go and bring their community members and any potential customers and new users that you want to have, and want to have like a completely immersive experience with that, where it's just not we have like the metaverse side of things, we have the platform side of things, and on top of that, or let's say under it, we have the Web3 layer, which opens up a whole world of possibilities for what people can monetize. So I think it's really exciting, like what Hubzz is offering, and I jumped on the opportunities as soon as I heard it because it's very well thought out.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Let's ask, okay, so Russ, tell me, are you currently looking for, investors, advisors, partnerships?
I am all ears to all of those things. I will say that I've been very strategic with anyone who is involved. I treat this like as if it were like my child. And I mean, I don't know. I'm very careful, but at the same time, I'm always welcoming any sort of conversation. Especially with money. Money is just jet fuel. So I always talk about we're preparing for a vertical takeoff, and money kind of ensures that alien technology. So, so yeah.
That is true. So you're looking for strategic partnerships,
Absolutely.
someone that sees your vision and is
Yes,
in it for the long haul, right?
absolutely. This is not a short flip by any means. This is a long-term vision. I will not, unfortunately, have enough time to go over the entire roadmap, so I have segmented just the tip of the iceberg to share today. But there is a lot that has been prepared for, and so we're definitely taking a huge chunk out of this market.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll have to plan a time where you come on and your whole team comes on and we have, the whole time, the 30, 45 minutes to have you present because I know it would take that
I
at
mean,
least
two
that long.
hours. Can you, when you
Yeah,
start the
you
long
guys,
format, let me know, and then we'll go. We'll be ready.
you guys are doing some really cool things though. Is there anything that you would like to mention that we haven't mentioned before we introduce our guest speaker?
There's a hand up. I just will. There's, but it like
I don't
this.
want to take away from the guest speaker. If we're gonna move on. I'll just
No,
ask later.
no, we have time. Go ahead.
Now,
Sorry,
I'm
I didn't
just
see
trying
you.
to picture myself because in the metaverse, when we had tours, I always picture the old school, blocky graphics, maybe like, Minecraft.
Mhm.
So, are you in the meeting talking to another virtual like person with like their mouth moving, or is it like you said, Zoom, and you're actually seeing videos?
So it's we like to say this optional immersion, and but by default we use the bird's eye view, and I think I'll have an opportunity to show a little bit of the demo, and you can kind of fill that gap there. But so you have that, and then you have the screen over to the side. You can make the screen large if you'd like to take up your entire screen, or you can have the semi-immersive experience, and then in the future. You can be fully virtual reality, which we've had it. We're building towards that. But obviously not everyone has, the setup in the middle of their workday to be jumped in there, like so accessible, like we keep accessibility in mind even when it comes to that. So yeah, it's bird's eye view. You can do the full screen just like you're normally used to. And then you can have the fully immersed virtual reality experience. The cool thing I'm really excited about is when someone's on their mobile phone and they see someone with way more range of motion than they do, and you know that they're on VR, and but you still have like that connection there. I'm really excited when we get to roll that out. But yeah, does that make sense a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. I
Cool.
was trying to picture. I'm like, I gotta ask because
It's
right
hard.
now it
Yeah.
kind of seems like it can't take it super seriously when it's just like a virtual mouth move. I'm like, oh, okay. I know
Yeah.
they're revamping, the metaverse. They are upgrading it. It's not like a Grand Theft Auto faces staring at you, but
Yeah, luckily the technology allows us a lot more flexibility in that, especially when you're on stage and you want to see that full range of motion. And the latest Oculus allows you to see their head movements and stuff like that. So it's not a static character in a video behind them. You get like the fully immersive experience. And so as technology rolls out, we're going to be integrating, and we've really positioned ourselves to do so.
yeah, I look forward to seeing a tour.
Yeah.
Actually, Russ, let's go ahead and do a quick demo. Let's see that.
Okay. Do I have sharing privileges?
Yes, you
Oh,
do.
okay. Let me
Yeah,
make
I'm checking
sure.
out y'all's Twitter profile, and there's a lot of really fun videos on there.
Yeah, thank
Hubzz
you.
HQ. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's without any money to churn out a marketing thing. Like so that's just
Nice.
me
Yeah.
in my free time. So I appreciate that a lot. Let me see about can I just do a tab desktop? This was what I was trying to do right before I hopped on to make sure I could just do my one tab. But if I need to do my full screen, that's okay too. All right, you guys are gonna have to see like a messy browser here. Is it how much is it? Okay. You can see all my my attempts at different things. Okay, so I will just start here, which is kind of funny because we just started putting this together and it was for a video, but this is what it looks like when you're in a room. And one thing I've been trying to communicate and I haven't been able to because the only thing we have really built out right now is the venue, which is a huge aspect of our platform. But the intimate settings that are going to come along with owning rooms and stuff, and then the like the personalization, and as you can see the items dropping in, those are actually my NFTs that I have. They're art pieces like Brian Brinkman, Perrin, Stena Jones, and Fragoso. Like I love their art and displaying it. It's all like a reflection of my personality, and that's like what you can kind of see here as people sort of develop their rooms with the NFTs that they own, you're going to see that the NFTs they keep are the ones that are truly a reflection of who they are. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be the next evolution of NFTs. And what that is, it's everyone's NFTs tells a story. And I want that story to be told in what they're wearing, what avatar they choose to use, but also the rooms they own and invite people to. And so this would be a room that someone owns that you can, instead of being in Discord, having a chat or voice chat or whatever, you could be in here and having the same experience, except a little more immersive. And you have ownership tied to it as well. So that is actually one part, but the other demo that we've been spending a lot more time on is the venue aspect, like we mentioned. And this is an interconnected world. And so what that means is we started with the very center of our world, and that's our Hubzz Tower. And on the top of a Hubzz Tower is our venue, which we like to consider like the Carnegie Hall of the entire, metaverse that we have. So if you're presenting here, you must be something special. But so this rooftop, then you have private rooms. So we were just in one of the private rooms, but all the rooms and everything is connected and accounted for in our engine and on chain. So you truly actually own. Oh, someone popped in here. You truly own the part of the world. And I don't know if I want to bore anyone with how that works, but as time goes on, you'll be able to explore by going down the elevator to the 11th floor, and the hallways are public space, but then you have the private rooms, and everyone's hopping in here. But then so let me just do the real quick thing. So like and I don't know how it's going to work with doing Zoom, if I can do webcam while Zoom. Yeah, so you can see up on the screen is my webcam, and we have priority speaker. You can have several people up here at one time. In the future, we're going to have a similar setup to Art Basel, where you're going to see all these different booths. And when you go in the booth, there's going to be a screen where you can interface with the artist, with the video, look at their artwork on the wall. And then they even get notified if you go in their little region within. Anyone that went to the Art Basel in Miami would know what I'm talking about. Like they're like little cubicles spread out, and it's this incredible warehouse. But we plan on having something very similar. But this is just like the first use case. So I could do a Twitch stream, Kick stream. I can do screen share. But this is what we call a venue module, and where we plan to continue to evolve with this. But this is the purpose of getting like more immersive experiences, changing light colors, things like that. But whoever owns the venue can have all of the customizations. And again, since we take a white glove approach, like this would be built out for the communities who are being onboarded, or the franchises that are being onboarded, or things like, yeah, thank you. So you can kind of see one funny thing is like this up here is our office space. So you're going to be able to go up the stairs, where I plan to spend 8 hours of my day being available to the community. They can chat with me at my desk there. Since co-working spaces is another area that we're trying to tackle. So yeah, this is and the Retro Doges is actually our first community partner. If you can see sort of their advertising around here that you can change on the fly. But that's why we use their characters. We have our own characters with our own franchise, which I can't really tab around. Like we're working on our character here. And since it's a franchise, we want to take a lot of extra special time on it. But you can see we're coming along a little nicely there. Here's the
names.
What is it?
So like, for example, if Jackie Meyer was going to use this, metaverse to do a presentation to 20,000 CPAs, how, like, does the individual characters, can you see this person's name?
Yeah.
Like, so that's cool. And then does everyone have to or get to create their own avatar?
So our avatars are going to be infinitely customizable. And that's what we're offering. We're not doing a 10K collection like you would see. But a lot of like the retro doges, you buy them off the NFT marketplace, and then you just have those because they're in your wallet. So I imagine in the future, people are just going to have different avatars kind of pre-staged for different events, like because they want to be represented with the continuity of the people that are around. but yes, you can. And then we also plan on a lot of different partnerships where, like, if we can get a partnership with, Jordans, and then have those sneaker runs and, things like that. Like, there's scarcity in the apparel. So there's free apparel, but then there's, premium apparel that you can purchase, along with items that you can buy in game, either the ones that we import from other collections and NFT things, or we roll out on our own, which we have a entire model of how that works if we want to get into it.
That is really interesting. So you can actually customize everything, bring in your own artwork, bring in your own programs, etc. Have different rooms for breakout sessions and all kinds of different things.
Yep.
That is super, super duper cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. So where can our viewers reach out to you?
Russ at Hubzz.com, or Russ Frankie anywhere else. So RUSSFRANKY. So that's Telegram, Twitter, Discord, all the same there. And I'm always around. So anytime I'll hit you back. So
thank you. And then one more question. So the Web2 industry, how are you, what's your prime client or
yeah.
partnership look like?
Well, we like to be considered a Web2 platform, and we're blockchain on the back end. So they'll never really know that they're interfacing or benefiting from the, blockchain back end, with the ownership and things like that. But the question was, like, my target audience, or?
Yeah, well, how, like, is your target audience Web2? Is it Web3? Is it a mixture? And
I'm
how are you, how are
hoping to
you
be a
onboarding them?
bridge for Web 2, and the first touch point that a lot of people have with the, liberating, nature of the Web 3. And, like, I want to actually, like, kind of clean up the, like, their first touch point was a PFP, and now they think NFTs are garbage. Well, I'm trying to deliver an approach that allows them to be eased into this space, see the benefits, and then, coming to knowledge, like, oh, I actually own this because it's all written on the ledger on chain. And they're using the data within the NFTs to curate content for me. That makes sense. And a lot of things that we're using, because, that is the future. So we definitely don't bank heavy usage on Web3 natives, although we have answered all of the questions they would have, because they understand the space and delivered a product, I believe, that they would also agree with, because they're a little trickier, and their expectations are really high. So I would say, yeah, a blend of both. But I hope we're the approachable solution for the mass market to be onboarded into Web3, because we are an evolution of Discord. We are an evolution of social media, if you want to go that far. So anyone who uses those platforms, and may be busy and don't have the time to jump into a metaverse, well, we are that gateway for you. The first step, we like to say, we're the first step towards the metaverse, doing it the right way, that's accessible, and things like that. So like I said in the beginning, it's a huge market, and we are taking that on. So yeah, hope that explains it a little bit.
So I have a
I
question,
did.
Crystal, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I think it's probably what everyone's wondering, and you probably get asked it so much you're sick of it, but how close to, like, a Ready Player One world are we?
I think it's farther than you think.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many hurdles, and I honestly always lean into the fact that I think AR is going to become way more popular with the augmented reality. So just a layer over our existing reality, and going fully immersed. I don't know. But I am always, like, as technology rolls out, it's always mind-boggling. So it's really hard to say. But I think I might speed it up a little bit with my platform.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so it's a race to be first mover advantage in this industry. And I always say that we're gonna, force Discord to innovate, which I do believe is gonna happen. But yeah, I think I mean, that's I don't know. That's a good question. I think it would have taken longer if we didn't, show up.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Thank you. Great questions. Russ, can you please give me host back?
Yep.
Host
If I
privileges
can
back?
figure
Thank
that
you.
out, do I just
You
click you?
did? This is fine. Just making sure, just dropping the screen it doesn't really matter. I really don't need it
Okay.
right away. I don't think. Can I? Yeah, actually, I will need it because without it, I won't be able to stop live.
Oh,
FYI.
there we go. Make host.
Okay.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, now it's time to welcome our guest speaker, the man of the hour, Mr. Cameron Brown, co-founder of Daring Advisors. Welcome, Cameron.
Thank you, Crystal, for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. Cameron, tell our viewers who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm a CPA, partner at Darian. We focus essentially on the unsexy work of compliance and making sure people stay out of jail with all their cryptocurrency and Web3 activities. I got my start back in 2015 as an investor. I've been doing compliance work since 2017. And then back in 2021, decided to go whole hog in the industry with a partner. And we do a lot of work for individuals, funds, startups. We've got our start essentially on-chain wallet management, tax reporting, making sure all those fun DeFi degenerate activities are reported correctly. Full well knowing that back in 2020, only 2.3 million Americans actually checked the box they hold crypto, which we know it's quite first and more. So our goal as a firm is to bring more folks into compliance or just increase that across the board. Because generally there's a huge deficit in the industry.
Most definitely. You said that you came to fill the voids. What's your what's your favorite client and why do you like working with those clients? Do you have a favorite kind of client or
Yeah, I
niche? Like
niche,
NFTs,
yeah.
DeFi, is it like which is it?
Yeah, I would say anything that goes off the rabbit hole of DeFi. That's where I got my start. I was a DGen back in 2020, 2021. I've since now had two kids and another one on the way, so my time to do so is certainly waned. But jokes aside, I mean, some of my funnest clients are the ones that are out there trying the latest dApps where things break. I don't know if it's just the masochistic nature of accounting, but going in, trying to unwind transactions, spending time on explorers, trying to get data, make it right. And as of recent, we've done a lot of work on the Stacks ecosystem, which the explorers historically weren't there, but it's also cool because this like nascent edge of DeFi kind of built on Bitcoin, and there's like this soft approval at the ETF. So kind of exploring down that route has been and quite fun, but truthfully, like any client that comes to, I mean, although it may seem like a mess, there's such a euphoria to actually bring some clarity to that and get them across the finish line.
What's like a common error that you're seeing when people come to you?
Yeah, I would say a quite common error is I think people not knowing when to tap out when they make it into the weeds. I think the unfortunate side of tools like Coinly, Coin Tracker, even just like the TurboTax mentality of tax in general, is people can DIY. That's fantastic, but there's certain, it may stretch their capabilities to do so, or the tool just doesn't know that you sent this random funds here, or this it's pseudonymous by nature. So a lot of times just basis errors or, the API polls aren't there or, hey, we bought this on some random exchange and just didn't account for it. And it's just something where it's a lot of time and effort and, these things are compounding. So one basis error this year can lead to the next and so on and so on. And then we're on an unwind 2 to 3 years of activity.
Yeah. Mm.
So tell us, you said that you weren't born a crypto CPA, right? So what did you specialize before you went down the rabbit hole?
Yeah, I mean, prior to, I did a stint at McGladrey, KPMG, a little bit on the corporate accountancy side, and then launched my own practice back in 2017 with my wife. We did some work with social enterprises, picked up a few cryptocurrency clients just by the virtue I had interest as an investor back during then. And I would say where the real genesis for it is I was doing a lot of consultancy work for a fintech startup, saw kind of the issues of trying to go through Reg A, Reg A plus, Reg D, participated loans, FSA, USDA, just to try to get 25 grand for some, sustainable farmers, which was quite frustrating because, that the acceleration speed of money and the velocity of money just wasn't there. So we were turning on, we were trying to see other ways to do it. We tried to push the founder at the time to look into cryptocurrency, but at that time, like Dwala and FinTech and ACH, same day settlement was quite cool. So we were interested in hit then. But one of my colleagues I met at that FinTech practice, we got stuck together back during COVID in the south of France. we were dabbling around in DeFi. I got the uni airdrop after dabbling around too long, and I was like, hey, if I barely get this, a CPA, understanding actual constructive receipt, timing with limited guidance to the IRS, a lot of folks don't get it, so we got a business.
You mentioned
I was also born a
opening
CPA in crypto.
you mentioned working with your wife. Do you currently work with your wife as well?
We do. I'd say more of an advisor role. So she's still, I would say, full-time mama. So as much as we can on the quarterly basis, helping setting directions with our practice. It's a B Corp. We do a lot of work with like just cool people doing awesome things. Also satisfies the regen hippie in me, but that's also translated to Web3, where we do a lot of work with, like forestry projects, conservation, plastic, carbon sequestration, plastic conservation, but using the blockchain refi model for it. So I still get that little bit of happiness.
And it's really fun. I bet it's really fun being in an industry where you can actually talk to your wife about it and she understands, what you're saying.
Yeah, she's essentially my FA. I'm way too in the weeds right now, so if she sees something, I'll totally follow suit. Also be more pragmatic than myself.
I love your website. So first I went to brown.tax and then I got over to Darian. Is that how you pronounce it? Advise you?
Darian, however you want to anglicize it. I'm a Spanish speaker, so it's
But
whatever.
I love the pictures of everybody and what do you call that? Cartoony thing.
Yeah, I guess caricatures,
Caricatures. There you
cartoonist.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
that
you go.
cartoony thing. Yeah, it's really nice. I love it.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. And the vibe we're trying to sell, I mean, the whole idea and genesis behind it was, like if you're familiar with the Darien Gap, right? The entire Pan American, some odd like 11, 13,000 miles, except for this little stretch. And we kind of understood it to be that, here's the existing IRC laws in the 1980s. Web3 is way over here on the other side of it. So just trying to navigate, understand, apply what we know from extractive, accuracy, current, fintech legislation. How do we actually look at interest, staking, et cetera, and try to apply that to this newfangled, modality of finance?
That is a very cool name. We have Amanda. Amanda, what question would you like to ask?
I'm curious, how involved are you with your clients in crypto, tracking their basis? Because I know it could be more of a conversation, or are you sitting there actually doing the math for them, or it's whenever they transfer, like you have to tell them you got the gains and losses you got to track no matter where you transfer. I'm just curious of how in depth you need to go with them, or if you do most of it, or if they do most of it.
Yeah, so I'll show my gray hairs here. I used to do a bit more of this on the day to day, but as a firm, we do. I would say we have kind of like a full service model where we'll go through import, wallet addresses, API keys, CSV data, to basically paint that picture. Then myself and team will go through and, understand where, hey, this, liquidity pool isn't popping right, or I'm on this random XYZ chain where staking isn't importing correctly, and try to figure out those basis or
Wow.
issues. And then based upon their activities, whether they're doing a lot of staking or LSTs or lending, where there could be dependent upon each protocol, each chain, each, even app or even pool itself, they could be handled differently on a transactional level. So I would say most of it has been the full service side, but we do have quite a few folks that I would say are more versed than myself and sometimes their own activities. They, again, the nature of a pseudonymous chain, they know what they've done. They were there at that event. They helped teach us, like, hey, this actually was presented incorrectly, or you should probably model it this way within the tool. And then we have some folks that, will do their stuff on awaken.tax, crypto tax calculator, bring it to us for review and say, hey, sus check, does this sound right? Do you do a spot transaction or a spot review of this? And then we help them go on their merry way.
That's awesome. I'm impressed. I get the gray hair thing.
That's why I keep it short.
Is there a proprietary software in the works here, or are you using particular solutions that are doing a great job for you?
Yeah, I mean, so far we've been using off the shelf. So our kind of bread and butter has been cointracking.info. There's a lot of firms in this space that use it just because it's boring. It's kind of like we say, like, it's FUBU, it's for us, by us. In the case of accountants, it's very, very gross and on the UX and UI side of things, but it gets the job done. And I know there's a few other, we've been talking to other firms in the area to build a proprietary solution because we see the same issues over and over.
Mhm.
I know one of our kind of like colleague firms, MoonTax, they built something proprietary to bring in like law opinions and take positions on certain tax events and whatnot. But I think the reason why a lot of folks have relied upon off the shelf is because we have to point to something. So if it's internal in-house, there's kind of that agency of, well, if it goes wrong, we can say, hey, coin tracking, their API keys here, and there's a reason why they're doing this and this reason. It just gives a little more, I guess, trust because they're doing this for thousands as opposed to, just our firm or whatnot.
Sure,
It's in the
sure.
works though.
Yeah, very cool. This seems like we're kind of dancing around something neat there. Um, Another question, when you say you're advisors, what are you advising the clients on? Are we looking at tax advising or other types of advising?
Yeah, so primarily with the tax or on transactional focus. So, essentially on the cryptocurrency side of things, we have FAQ, revenue rulings, certain guidance out there, which is essentially illustrating the IRS in the case of an audit, how they would see this or what their
Mhm.
position is at the standpoint. But we haven't had any rule of law, case law essentially to establish that definitively this is what it is. And I think that's just the nature of we're applying kind of broad strokes to what we think these transactions may be. It's the same reason with the 1090-A that the IRS, by their definition, sees a ledger or MetaMask as a broker, although it's a non-custodial solution. So there's a part of, I think, the old adage of what was from the financial system trying to apply to this. So where we can advise on the transactional basis is, in the case of Aave, something very simple for like going into DeFi. I deposit my WETH into an Aave contract. I can use that to borrow and issue a loan against it. Pretty simple, right? I'm just doing collateralized lending. However, transactionally, you might be exchanging your ETH for an Aave version of WETH. Now, is that a token? It's a receipt that I can redeem at a later date. Am I actually exchange it for a different nature of property that has different prices, values, etc.? Because is that a taxable event? So trying to understand those various nuances of something as simple as a CDP, and then extrapolating that to staking, liquidity provisioning, derivatives, margins, like how the heck do you tax friend tech or all these various, social fi solutions. So kind of working with, where we're at here in the more like based internal revenue code, positioning, understanding that, here's where the actual tech is and trying to understand from the risk basis, from our clients' activities, where they fall, knowing that, yeah, they could be audited. So how defensible is this? Is it,
Mhm.
we're going to lose this right away, or do we actually have a pretty good merit case to it? So that's where we spend a lot of time is understanding their activities. And then in addition, we do a lot of work with, labs or devco entities looking to migrate to, a foundation here onshore. So a 501c3, 501c4, ECI, transfer pricing, guilty implications if they go to the Panamanian BVI sort of type wrappers. So just trying to serve them as best we can in those avenues. And basically applying the current methodology we have to it as best as possible.
Yeah, so you're always being challenged. There's always something new, it sounds like.
Yeah,
That's great.
very much. Yeah, I wouldn't every single like quarter, month, or whatever. It's quite crazy.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah.
Are there any current like tax strategies that you do use in your expertise or
Yeah,
fields?
I would say this is, I would say, a dividing area within the hot topic of cryptocurrency taxation. There's
Ooh.
a ooh, right? There's some tax lawyers and attorneys out there that kind of, I would say, in the case of staking. So the IRS said, yeah, staking's taxable. Cool. Like we knew they were going to probably say this, just like with mining was taxable some odd years ago. But myself, a few other CPAs, a few tax lawyers don't think it's taxable. And how we, and again, case by case basis, the client's risk comforts. But if we kind of think about, staking as itself is when I lock my ETH into the contract, right? And I'm actually staking. It's not that Vitalik himself is paying me these rewards. It's this newly minted property, every single block that just spits out these ETH, right? And how we kind of view this is similar to like, let's go with forestry or agriculture. I put my corn in the ground, corn grows, I harvest the corn, I put it in a silo or analogous to my wallet. Now, until I sell that to the co-op, a third party, it's not taxed. It's the same thing with crypto is there, it's not in the case of corn. It's like it comes out of the ground. It's not like I'm receiving a 1099 from Pachamama from the earth or whatever. It's just some unilaterally non-third party. there is no counterparty to the transaction. So how we kind of see that too with POS chains, mining to a degree, there is a little bit more activity that goes into it, but yeah, it's something that I would say is a hot topic. And then 1090A is coming down the road as well.
Thank you for elaborating on that. Do we have any other questions out there from anyone? I know we've asked lots of questions. No, not yet. Getting there. So how important, well, I think you've pretty much illustrated how important it is to, if you're a founder, if you're a startup, you're entering in, or you are already in the NFT, DeFi, DAO space, how important it is to have a CPA within that niche, and can you give us an example of, maybe a founder or startup that made I don't know if it's a mistake, but made the mistake of going to a CPA that wasn't in the niche and you had to fix it?
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time, unfortunately. And I think just the nature of the industry and the space is people put carts before the horse more often than not. The tech comes first, the idea comes first, the dev, but tax, legal, everything else is secondary. So a lot of times, unfortunately, we come into places where they've launched a token and they've sold it or they've made grants to folks. Cool. Well, you need a valuation by Technos Redwood to substantiate that price that you're doing for your restricted compensation all this time ago. Or, hey, did you even consider an 83B election? These are restricted arrangements tied to servicing or actual compensation, and that could benefit your contributors or employees. So that happens way too often. And I also say, consult clients is like, if you're a founder, if you're interacting in a heavy space, if you're a contributor to a protocol, not that there's a target pain on your back, but metaphorically there is. You have to be better than good because there's the expectation that you know better. It's the same reason when, if the IRS was to audit my return, they would have a higher degree of scrutiny because I'm a CPA. I know better. I can comply with the laws than some person that's a freelancer, deducting, their personal, coffees at Starbucks, right? So the fact that you know what the technology is, you're already an actor in the space, you understand the transactions, there's an air of conservatism that your report needs to be. And what we kind of help out with is make sure we got complete data sets. We try as best as possible to make sure we reflect transactions the accurate as, to where we're at, knowing that, certain things may just bug out. This chain doesn't plug in, or, this DApp doesn't appropriate. We have to take good or reasonable, I guess reasonable guesses on certain activities and then amend when the actual data comes up with it. So yeah, it happens way too often. I've also found, people have engaged with non-crypto native CPAs on the startup front that don't even know what a token is or a token warrant or a SAFT. And even a safe is kind of like cool in the IRS's standpoint, which is pretty, commonplace these days with startups. So yeah, unfortunately, it happens quite often.
And you mentioned, were you saying 1099K provisions? Is that what you're saying?
So when I was saying there's 1099DA, so that's
Oh, I
the
was
broker
like, where
reporting.
are we going with that?
Yeah, no, there's no payment
tell us
processing.
So what is that about?
Yeah, so this came out of the infrastructure bill back that Biden passed a couple years out, basically saying that for any transaction over 10,000 at Start for digital assets was subject to the same reporting right now as cash transactions. So if I were to walk in at the first kind of phase, if I were to walk into a dealership with 10 grand, I buy this Toyota, the dealership would need to collect this information because that's just the part of 1099 reporting. In the case of 1099DA, this applies to digital assets. So this is it's coming out here in January 1st, 2025. So for centralized exchanges, brokers is what it's broker dealer reporting. So people that are facilitating protocols, DEXs, certain platforms, they need to collect this information on their customers by the virtue of receiving funds and transacting, much akin if they were in a cash environment. So the rules that came out are proposed, subject to actual final approval, but the idea is that this will affect most wallet solutions, most protocols, most DEXs, which is anti-innovation, unfortunately. But we'll find a way to get there.
Yeah, nice. And I guess I cannot go without saying a comment about the fact that people are using, the wrong CPAs or whatnot. Our profession is not trained in any of these matters. We're not trained how to prep a tax return. We're not trained how to do tax planning. The one question I would say any taxpayer should ask their accountant is, do you specialize in XYZ? And the accountant will be pretty transparent at that point that they don't. And then that's when you need to maybe look for a different solution.
Yep. No, I agree. And I think a lot of, I would say, there was back during 21 and 22, there was, I would say, charlatans, people that say, hey, I know crypto. And I think the best advice, you can give to potential when you're looking for a CPA is quiz them. Like, do they know what you're about? Are they, I mean, heck, do they even have an NFT? Like, do they know what an NFT is? And it's these little things that there is jargon, there's certain like learned mores of operating the space that you have to at least have an understanding of to be able to support those types of clients. I think what happened though in 21 and 22, a lot of CPAs saw the gold rush. Hey, there's all these activities, all these gains. I want to do compliance work for it. And unfortunately, underserved folks because they were trying to do something they didn't really fully understand. So a part of it is, bringing a lot of CPAs up and helping them educate, understand, because the overall space is vastly underserved. We met with, Gordon Law, Crypto Task Girl, heck, Polygon Advisors in Denver. We were talking about how, the pie is so large. Like, we're not really in competition other crypto CPAs because there's so many clients out there that aren't getting the right type of support. There's millions of people with crypto, and each of us have 500, 1,000, maybe a couple thousand of clients, which is a small piece of the pie of overall people transacting.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments, questions. Appreciate everyone being here. Cameron, where can our audience reach out to you at?
Yeah, you can just holler on our website, www.Darien or Darien, Darien advisors.io. I'm on Twitter at 0xCryptoTax. And feel free to give me a DM, shout out. And then also on Telegram as well at Cameron_CPA.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you, Jackie, Russ, for being here. We appreciate you. With that, let's go ahead and go down to Alan. Alan, will you close in prayer?
Yes. Before we close in prayer, is there any prayer requests out there to the audience? Anything we need to pray for you for upcoming weeks or months? I'd like to open it up if anyone has a prayer request before I close.
How about for a safe weekend?
Safe weekend?
Safe weekend.
Safe weekend. All right, let's bow our heads and pray. Dear gracious Father, thank you so much for another Crypto Canaverse show. We can gather just like-minded individuals and businesses and CEOs that really truly believe into their work, their technology, and their network, and just continue to pray for this group that you lead the way in all things that we do. We do it with a purpose and be mindful of our actions and do everything to glorify you, God. Pray for me for a safe weekend. Thank you so much for Clayton and Michael safely flying back from their Dubai conference. We know there was some turbulence and storm, but we're so glad that you brought them safe back at home. Just pray for this weekend. You be with us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.